I've lost track at this point. All right. But in this week 7 module, I put a few things to help us with our drafts, and I've also just posted the prompt in here one more time, and I wanted to make it easier. Now you can just click on this and it'll take you right to the assignment folder. So when you get ready to upload yours, just put it in there. And another thing that I want to get across to you all, just like with our narrative essay, what we're working on right now is a rough draft, right? And you'll have an opportunity for revision. So don't get caught up trying to make this the perfect essay or trying to make this draft into the final draft. Just make sure you get your ideas out, all right, and have some sense of organization. And but all that can be worked on. I think the main thing here is just getting those ideas on paper. All right. And then, perhaps you'll see that, maybe you need to come up with some additional effects, or, the opposite will be true. Maybe you don't, need to use all the ideas you came up with on your brainstorm. So, don't put any unnecessary pressure on yourself is what I'm saying. All right. So here's NetTutor again. All right. This is just a video on how to use NetTutor. All right. In NetTutor, I'm going to show you just briefly. All right. I think a few of you have already used it. But you just click open NetTutor. I'm already signed in, but it'll take you to a sign-in page. All right, and then once you sign in, you go here, and then you can just move you all out of the way. This writing paper center, you can just upload your paper there, or you can have a live interaction with the tutor. The only thing is you have to wait in line for that. All right, so that's there, and then these two videos are just about how to put together a proper works cited page. And these videos use the site Scribr. All right. And Scribr just works like this. All right. Let me just go to the trusty old Free Press. All right. Let's say I cited this article. Okay. Never mind. I don't want to turn off my ad blocker. All right. Let's say I want to use this article. I'm just going to copy the address and just going to make sure, I'm highlighting the category that I want, and then I want website. Just going to paste the web address here and let Scribr do the rest of the work for me. Bam. Okay. Oh man. All right. So all this is populated for us, and then I just hit site source, and here it is. All right. You just paste this to your works cited page. All right. So, and if you want to do it the old school way, you can. But I think, with technology these days, it's easier to use these citation generator things. So this is just how to use Scribr, part one. And then this one is actually how to, format your works cited page with a hanging indent and everything that you need. Here are two student examples of causal analyses. All right. And whenever I use an example, none of the examples I choose are perfect. All right. But I think these examples have enough of the features, that we need. And I never want, my students' essays to look like the examples. But again, if we just look at, some of the features in these essays and try to incorporate them into ours, I think we'll be fine. And when I say features, I mean like, an introduction should include an attention grabber, some kind of context or background, and then your thesis statement. So if you include those three things in your introduction, you'll be fine. But how you incorporate those three items into your introduction, that's going to be unique to you. All right, and then here's just the prompt again, if you missed it. But I really just included this so you can go right to the assignment folder in this module. All right. And then I just want to go back to these slides I was looking at last week. It seems so long ago. I'm just gonna download it. Some of this material we covered, so I'm just gonna skip around a little bit. And okay. Um, one of the ideas that I mentioned last week was, and hopefully we spent some time thinking about this as you put your outlines together, but thinking about underlying causes or underlying effects. And what I was saying last week is, when you're thinking about whatever you're writing about, there are going to be some obvious causes or some obvious effects. And should you include those in your paper? Yes, definitely. Okay. And actually, I think it's, when we talk about like visualizing our paper, I think that's a good way to begin. Like begin, with some of the obvious and kind of use your paper to build up to some of these underlying causes or effects. And underlying causes or underlying effects are just causes or effects that maybe require some reflection, or things that aren't necessarily on the surface. And that's why, again, I want you all to really, especially, over the next week while you're putting your draft together, but, really spend some time like living with your topic, right? And try to think about it, as deeply as you can. All right. And try to come up with ideas. You've already submitted your outline, but maybe you jot some more things down on some scrap paper or something like that. And basically whatever comes to mind, knowing that you're going to go back and sift through these ideas to see what you're going to use and then maybe what you're going to toss out. All right. So underlying causes or effects, involve going beyond the obvious to discover causes or effects that are not immediately apparent. All right. But again, don't think because something's obvious, you can't include it in your paper, but just try to go beyond that. All right. Try to go beyond that. All right. And another thing I mentioned last week, even though I didn't necessarily use it by name, was causal chains. All right. I don't know if you all remember those old direct TV commercials where like one thing happens and then that causes another thing to happen, and pretty soon you're at a funeral with like no eyebrows or something like that. It's some extreme consequence. I can't, like, Phil Shifley. It's like vaguely coming back to me now, but that's pretty much what a causal chain is, right? One thing happens and that causes another thing to happen, and so on and so forth. Causal chains, no matter if you're writing about cause or effect, causal chains are great ways to develop paragraphs. All right. You don't have to have one in every paragraph, but teasing out, a causal chain here and there, like I said, a great way for developing your paragraphs. So there are times when a set of events forms a causal chain, or when a cause, this, it may sound confusing, but it's not really when we think about it. When a cause leads to an effect, right? And then that effect becomes a cause, which leads to another effect, which becomes a cause, and so on and so forth. All right. And that sounded like a lot, but here's how something like that could play out. A student, sleeps through their alarm on their iPhone, right? That's the cause. And the effect is, they wake up late. All right. And then that effect, or waking up late, you know, causes them to miss class. Missing class causes the student to fail the big exam. Failing the big exam lowers the grade in the class. Lowering the grade in the class lowers the overall GPA. And then lowering the GPA, the student gets denied admission into their college of choice. Okay. So think about that in your paper, right? And you don't have to have causal chains in your paper. Let me just say that. But when you're drafting your own essay, right? Are there, spaces where a causal chain would be appropriate? All right. And like I said, that question, or the response to that question, will be relative to your essay. But think about That's a good example. It is. Yeah. Okay. Don't use the alarm on your phone. All right. And if you are, put your alarm clock in a place where you can't reach it, so you won't like hit that snooze. All right. But personally, I don't have that issue because I'm turning into an old man, and old people for some reason just wake up early. So I'm up at like 5 or 6 every day. I don't know why. It's with my internal clock wakes me up. Pretty soon I'm gonna be telling kids to get off my lawn. All right, full old man. Okay, now,
Mr.
okay,
Norwood,
yes.
the causal chain, would it isn't it basically the same thing as like the positives and negatives, putting them in order?
Not really, because it's basically like one thing happens, and then that thing causes another thing to happen. Something that's related. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's instead of like listing the or positives and negatives, it's I woke up late, and I overslept for class. That caused me to get a low grade on my test, and getting a low grade on the test caused this. So it's not necessarily mentioning the positives or negatives of a situation, Matt. It's more or less like looking at something that happens, and then just following the chain of events that could happen. All right. It's kind of like when you tell a story of like a bad day or a good day, you could say like it all started when, and then it just went downhill from there, or it went uphill from there. Okay. So now don't think of it in terms of like presenting positives and negatives. Think about it in terms of like, here's this thing that happened, and then here's this chain of events that happened as a result. All right. Does that making any sense?
Yes. Thank you.
I was gonna say, all right. All right, cool. And this is just some structural ideas for setting up your essay. All right. And this is essentially, your outline. Um, where, if your essay is going to discuss effects, right? You would discuss the cause in your intro, but then the rest of your paper would be, just fleshing out, these effects. All right. And vice versa, if you're discussing causes, then your intro would discuss the effects, and then the body of your paper would discuss causes. All right. But I just want to, yeah, this is what I wanted to get into. Okay. Now, all right, let's look at some of the features of a causal analysis. And I have on this slide an introduction. All right. Does yours have to sound like this one? No. All right. But should your introduction have an attention grabber, some background or some context, and a thesis statement? Yes. And let me say those again. Your introduction, no matter how you accomplish these features, or these no matter how you incorporate these into your introduction, every intro, not every because that's kind of an absolute, but most intros, and the intros for our papers, we can say that definitely should have three main features. Start with an attention grabber. Okay. Attention grabber could be a quote, a short quote, could be some relatable statement, right? Could be an anecdote. An anecdote is just like a short but relevant story. Emphasis on short because you don't want your intro to take up too much space. All right. Some provocative statement that's going to get your reader thinking. All right. Or a provocative statement is a statement that your reader's going to have some reaction to, right? Whether they agree with it, disagree with it, that's kind of irrelevant. You just want them to have some reaction to it. A survey, a 2018 survey revealed that most parents, would say that they wouldn't have children if they could do it all over again. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just something. All right. So, something to make your reader think. All right. So think about ways a series of rhetorical questions is a great way to start your paper as well. Just do not begin with have you ever? Okay. Don't start your paper with have you ever. If the answer to that question is no, you've already caused your reader to disengage. All right. So don't start your paper with have you ever. All right. Also, it uses second person point of view, which we aren't using anyway. So don't start your paper with have you ever, or don't use some generic opening. And when I say generic opening, social media, is a popular form of, whatever. All right. Meaning like don't tell the reader what they already know, or don't state the obvious. Think of a way that would capture your reader's attention, right? Because you're going to have to keep them engaged throughout the paper, but I think the way you start kind of sets the tone for your essay. Okay, so think of an interesting way to begin. All right, and I think that's the great thing about the revision process. You may have to try a few openings before you settle on one. My process as a writer when I was a student, and even now, a lot of times I will start an essay or a piece of writing, but when it's all said and done, for me, like that start will become my first body paragraph, and then paragraph, and then I'll draft a new introduction. And I don't know why, but that's just my process. Yes, yes, Shamika, it's fine to begin with the question, but just make sure, one, it's not a have you ever question, and two, make sure it's a question that you plan to address within the essay. But opening with some questions are it's a good way to get your reader thinking. All
Are you
right.
allowed to start an essay with first or second person?
First person, ooh, not for this essay, unless it's in a quote. Okay. But if you're going to use like something personal, try to make it universal. So instead of like you know, many people, some people, you get what I'm saying? Yeah, so try to make your experiences apply universally, or just try to frame them in a way where your audience can relate to them. So if there is an I, and then a lot of us do have shared experiences, so you may have that shared experience with your audience. Okay. Just this is also neither here nor there, but it's on my mind because I was reading some other papers this morning. When you're writing a paper, try to use qualifiers, meaning like to make the statement, everybody likes pizza. All right. And if we're just speaking casually, we could say, hey, everybody likes pizza. But in an essay, we can't make that assumption that everybody likes pizza. But when I say qualifier, you can, like, instead of everybody, most people. All right. So yeah, don't, and then it's, aside from like breathing and a few other bodily functions, there aren't many things that all human beings do. All right. And then there's always that one person, I don't like pizza. Okay. Well, who doesn't like pizza? A bit of a pizza connoisseur. All right. So attention grabber, background or context. And what you're doing after you've gotten their attention, now with the background, you're getting them involved in the conversation. So you're answering the question, what do they need to know to be part of this conversation? What does my reader need to know to understand the points that I will be making throughout my essay? Now, if it's something that's already in the public mind, then maybe your background won't need to be as extensive, and then you can just make some additional points to contextualize what you're going to say. But if it's something that's kind of obscure or really not on the public radar, think about what you're going to need to what you're going to have to let them know. All right. One of the papers I remember a couple semesters ago, it was a paper about gaming. And the paper used all this gaming terminology. So in face-to-face sessions, I do peer review where students will swap papers and give each other feedback. And the student's partner was kind of lost because, they weren't, aware of, the gaming terminology and things of that nature. So, most of the points the student was making in their paper were lost, on this person. So think about, what your reader will need to know in order to understand. All right. So now we're up to two things: attention grabber and some background or some context. All right. And then finally, you need your thesis statement. All right. And your thesis statement indicates, whether you'll be discussing causes or effects without saying, in this paper, I will be discussing cause or effects of, such and such. All right. So your attention grabber, background or context, and then thesis statement. All
So
right.
thesis
Go
statement
ahead, Matthew.
always goes. The thesis statement always goes last in the introduction.
Yes. We'll say
Okay.
always for this class, but when you write longer essays, then it may come like later, like maybe in the second paragraph. But for these essays, yeah, let's put it as the last sentence of our introduction. So using that logic, like you use your introduction to build up to your thesis statement. All right. So let's look at this example. There was once a time when 9 to 5 meant just that for most American workers. Bam. This writer used a relatable statement. All right. So for your intro, I mean, for your attention grabber, maybe it is a quote, maybe it's something that, most employees can relate to. And this writer mentions that because, shifts for many jobs tend to be kind of fluid these days. Beating the rush hour traffic in the morning to make it to the office and the late afternoon stampede out the door sounds familiar to a great deal of employees. Okay, again, just establishing that common ground. However, as technology has evolved, so now this writer is transitioning into the central topic of their paper. All right. Specifically, as the 9 to 5 day transition to an always on call lifestyle, the lines between personal and professional lives has become blurred. All right. Now the student, and here, we started off kind of general with our attention grabber, but it's getting more specific as the paragraph builds. Through technology like the though technology like the smartphone has made work more convenient and efficient by providing us, first person, with pocket-sized computers, many employees find themselves handling work-related issues during off-work hours. Okay, now here's our build-up, and then here's the thesis statement. Smartphones can boost productivity, but if people allow them to, they can extend the workday to interfere with one's personal life. Okay, so essentially, this essay is going to be about how our technology extends the workday and blurs the line between professional and personal. Does it matter how many? Yes, Shamika, thesis statement should be one sentence. All right, one sentence. Now, in this stage, though, Shamika, if it's a couple sentences, that's fine in an early draft, but just work on like streamlining. How can you say all that in one statement? Yeah, two's pushing. Okay. Two is pushing it. Okay. So really say, here's what you can do, Shamika and others. Break down your idea in the early stages of your essay, break down your idea into its most simple form. What do you want to say in your essay? And say it as simply as possible. And then kind of build from there. All right. Meaning like, this essay, no, scratch that. All right. I can't remember if we talked about your topic, but think about your topic and then think about the causes of it or think about the effects of it and try to say that as simply as possible. And then, you can add things to it to make it more appropriate for an essay. But when you start thinking about your thesis, break it down to as simple as an idea as possible. Make it plain. Okay. Okay.
I
Okay.
have a question.
Yes.
So after we say the thesis statement,
Mhm.
can we move on? Can we go back and explain more background information before the effects?
Try to accomplish that in your intro.
So that all the background has to be in one paragraph?
Hmm. Let me think about it. Well, no. So say you're giving your essay. I mean, say you're delivering your points in that essay. So your intro, right? You can just give some general background, but
Mhm.
if there's some background you need to give as it relates to a specific point, you can do that in that body paragraph. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So if you're discussing an effect and there needs to be more like context or more background for your reader to understand that effect, you can do it in that paragraph.
Okay.
Is that making sense or
Kind of.
kind of? Okay.
Yeah.
Here's
But
here's here's now here's what I suggest to you. Um, put your draft together and then let me read it, and then I'll be able to give you more guided feedback. Once I see. So right now, just write it how it's coming to you, and then we can work on revising it, right? Once I see, once I have that visual of what we're discussing. Okay. Now, just like our introduction should have 3 elements, our body paragraph should have 2 elements. Topic sentence that states the main idea, relevant supporting details. Okay. Emphasis on relevant supporting details, meaning, and this is where your outline is going to come into play, because now you're looking at those points that you made in the outline, and really you're just fleshing those ideas out. And remember, just from like a structural perspective, just remember like one idea per paragraph. Don't try to jam all of your ideas into the same paragraph, or don't even try to discuss multiple ideas or multiple effects or causes in the same paragraph. Give your ideas the space that they require. What I mean is, if you're discussing multiple ideas in the same paragraph, you aren't really going to have the space for development. All right. So, you know, just remember that mantra: new idea, new paragraph. Or, and I think, Tamara, this can kind of speak to your question as well. If you're writing a paragraph and you feel it, running kind of long, think about giving your reader a space to reflect, and start a new paragraph. So start a new paragraph if, one, you want to discuss a new idea, but also start a new paragraph if you just want to show one idea emphasis, and that runs kind of long, or if that idea needs a more in-depth explanation. All right. So, but try to avoid think about this. Think about having a conversation with someone, right? And they just keep going and going some more and going some more. At some point you're gonna become disengaged from that conversation. All right. So think about, one, definitely when you're starting a new idea, when you start discussing a new idea, but also think about, when you just want to give your reader a moment to reflect. All right. Or just give them a rest. Okay. Give them a rest, give them a moment to breathe. Okay. So topic sentence states the main idea. Look at your topic sentence as kind of like an invisible fence for the paragraph, right? So whatever you mention in that topic sentence, that's the idea you're locked into. Okay. So only discuss that idea in that paragraph, and that will keep your paragraphs unified. All right. Remember, paragraph unity, one idea per paragraph. So here's our topic sentence. Smartphones can increase productivity at work, but this surge in output can come packaged with the feeling of constantly being on the clock. Okay. In other words, our smart technologies can make us feel like we're constantly at work. All right. And here's our topic sentence. Now we just need to flesh it out. Many American employees begin the day by using their phones to check and respond to emails while still in bed, and close the day the same way. For most, the average workday has been extended by approximately 2 hours, which equates to an extra 10 hours a week, assuming one does not work weekends. Taking work home frequently increases stress, and many feel the need to comply, as many feel the need to comply with the endless demands of the workplace. The blending of professional and personal lives has become commonplace, and many are feeling the need to unplug, even if for a brief moment. Okay, now here's something new, right, that we did not do in our last essay. Now we're bringing in an outside source to sustain a point that we have made. And the first thing I want you to notice is how little of the paragraph this quote takes up. Okay. Some quotes are a little bit longer than others, but the point I'm making is in a body paragraph and overall in your essay, your voice should always, always, always be the dominant voice. Sometimes I will see essays where, they're just overquoted, and the writer's voice, gets lost when there's an abundance of quotes. But if you use quotes, like carefully, or if you use quotes to support your own ideas, then that's certainly a more effective use of quotes than letting the quotes make the point for you. Okay, always use them to support points that you make. All right, meaning like you make this point, and then the quote is kind of saying, well, if you don't believe me, here's the words of this expert. All right. But again, the majority of your essay should be your own words. And for us, we kind of have an advantage with technology, meaning we can see our own turn it in percentage. So try to get that really between 10 and 15% is the sweet spot, but definitely try not to go over 20%. All right. If yours is over 20%, um either you've overquoted, or you can keep the amount of quotes. You just need to add more of your original wording into that essay. Okay. If you I think the color codes, it goes from blue to green to yellow. All right, if you hit the yellow, then that's time to start worrying. Not worrying, but it's time to start revising a bit more. Okay, if you're in the orange or the red, it's all bad. Okay. Red probably means a person intentionally plagiarized. All right. So even if for a brief moment, in looking for balance in a 24/7 world, author and business owner Fuzia Burke comments. Okay. This bold, really the whole thing is a signal phrase, but this section actually, or this part of the sentence actually is, I wanted to show you this. Author and business owner Fuzia Burke comments. Why did I note that she is an author and business owner? It lends to her credibility, right? In speaking on this subject. So the first time you use a source, try to note the author's credentials, meaning like what's their background or what's their authority to speak on this issue, because your reader is going to be asking the question, well, why should I believe them? All right, why should I believe them? So in looking for balance in a 24/7 world, author and business owner Fuzia Burke comments, and notice the punctuation too of the signal phrase. All right. There's a comma after your verb, and then the quotation marks. And then if you notice, I don't know if you all can see it. Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. The the punctuation goes outside of your parentheses, because technically this is the end of your sentence. Even if there's a question mark or an exclamation point inside of the quote, you're still going to include that, but you're still going to have a period outside of your parentheses. All right. Or if you want to get fancy, your parenthetical citation. But nobody says that. All right. So Fuzia Burke comments, we live in a culture of 24/7 work, and it has become normal for many of us, normal to many of us. We have raised the expectation of availability to a point that is unhealthy. Okay, end quote. And now, another thing about quotes, something we need to keep in mind, never begin or end a body paragraph with a quote. Okay, always start with your own words and always end with your own words. All right, and more importantly, whenever you have a quote, or even if it's not a quote, maybe you have some statistic or whatever in your paper that you got from an outside source, that's fine, but always follow up with your own words. Okay, always. When you have quoted material, always follow up with your own words. Okay, as Burke notes. So really you're giving an explanation to the reader. As Burke notes, feeling the need to always be available for work can lead to stressors that jeopardize mental and physical health. Okay, one, maybe two sentences after you quote will suffice. So if I were to fully develop this paper, then my next paragraph would address, the next effect, for this topic. All right. But again, look at the features of this paragraph. Topic sentence, relevant supporting details. Also, each one of these sentences, in my paragraph has some connection to this topic sentence. And in math, when your teacher tells you to check your work, the way we check our work in English is look at your topic sentence. Okay, look at every other sentence. What's the connection to my topic sentence? And then in the grand scheme of things, look at your thesis statement and check each body paragraph against that. All right. Another strategy for paragraph building, and we can see it in action here as well, is the PI method. Okay, and PI just means point, information, explanation. All right, so our topic sentence is our point. All right, topic sentence is the point. Information shows the truth of the topic sentence. Okay, so topic sentence tells, your supporting details show. All right. And then our explanation is some kind of follow up. Maybe you have a quote, maybe you have a paraphrase. So the explanation is the follow up. Okay. Point, information, explanation, or if you don't want to remember PI, just remember topic sentence and relevant supporting details. All right. Topic sentence, relevant supporting details. And here we don't have to use a ton of sources in this essay, but I do want us to start practicing. Use this essay to start practicing incorporating sources, into your own work, because our next essay is going to require even more sources.
Mr. Norwood.
Yes.
So one way I was taught, like when writing a paper when you find information online, is instead of like continuously saying according to, you write the quote and then you just in parentheses you write where you got it from. Is that a way you can do it?
Now, but I would say, instead of using according to all the time, try to vary, your signal phrases, right? Fuzia Burke notes, comments, asserts, claims. And I'm just using Fuzia as an example, but
I've got a
just
question.
try to hold on for a second, Matt. Try to switch up, the signal phrases you use, Matt. Is that making sense to you? And then this is where you put your I didn't use the last name here because it's already in the signal phrase, but typically it would look like that. And then if there are page numbers, it would look like that. So
Okay.
use a signal phrase and then a citation, Matt. All right.
Okay.
And Matthew, what you got? Don't ask me a
What
Chicago
if
style
we're,
question.
and I feel like this is relevant, getting our, I'll talk later.
You sure?
I'd like to ask you a question or two before class lets out, but.
Okay, that's cool. All right. And then I just put some transitions here that you would typically hear in a causal analysis. So you can view that slide on your own. And then finally, right, wrap it up. Okay. One of the guidelines about conclusion paragraphs, you don't want to introduce any new material in your conclusion. All right. But, think about what you want to leave them with. leave your audience with, right? And, you know, you can reiterate, you know, some of the points you've been making throughout your paper. You can certainly reassert, you know, the idea that you presented in your thesis statement, but yeah, just don't introduce any new material in your conclusion. Also, try not to start your conclusion with "in conclusion." You know, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it's just you know, that's just been done to death. All right. And really, you know, whatever you're going to say after "in conclusion," just start with that. Right. So if this paragraph were to read "in conclusion, most people," just start with "most people." All right. So whatever you would say after "in conclusion," you know, just leave with that. Shamika, don't restate it like word for word, but you can definitely reiterate the idea. All right. So don't like copy it and paste your your thesis statement in your conclusion, but you can definitely reiterate that idea. All right. Or just think about, you know, overall, what do you want your reader to take from your paper? What was the purpose of your causal analysis? Most people aspire to be their best selves personally as well as professionally. As jobs across nearly every industry become more competitive, the urge to push ourselves to do more becomes stronger. Our phones can keep people connected and enhance productivity, but it is important to be mindful of the costs of overworking. Also, people strive to do more. As people strive to do more, it is in their best interest to remember to manage technology instead of letting it manage them instead of us. But you get the gist. Okay. So wrap up without introducing any new material. Okay. A couple more things before I let you get started on your draft. I know you all can't wait to get started. Let me go into this week's. Welcome back. What is the minimum of how many? You know the answer to that. Look at the prompt, Shamika. Okay, I'll just look at one of these examples. Both of these were written by students. The names have been changed to protect the innocent, though. All right, and like I said, you know, neither of these examples are perfect. But again, you know, no piece of writing is perfect. All right. This is a student named
Very
student.
clever name changing.
This is their actual name, though.
No, it's not. No parent would be cruel enough to name their kid student.
You never know. I think, and then Matt, you'll get this also when you become an educator. But you just looking at rosters, you will see some very interesting names. All right. One of the most I've had some really. I had a student named Vision once. I thought that was pretty cool. And then some of my students like already have superhero names, so all they're missing is like a costume and some abilities. All right, but no, you know, student, you know, professor. That's actually my real name. All right, and then the student was you know, gracious enough to come back from the future to submit this paper because it was that important. All right, so now let's look at, you know, again, the three elements of an introduction: attention grabber, context or background, and then thesis statement. Let's see if this student came through with these items. It is often said that everyone cheats on their partner at some point in life. Uh-oh. Now, the reader's probably thinking, I never cheated on my partner, or is my partner cheating on me? All right. But I think either way, with this statement, just the statement that everyone cheats on their partner, that's going to elicit some reaction from your reader. And no matter how they're feeling, I think a statement like this is going to cause them to want to read more. All right. Let me see. Let me see what if my partner's cheating on me. All right. Or they're saying like true, true, true. Hopefully they're not saying that. All right. All right. However, when infidelity occurs, it can be hurtful to all parties involved. When a person cheats on their partner, they do not consider how their partner may feel when the truth about their infidelity comes out. All the cheater can think of is, I'm doing something that's pleasuring me, and it feels good right now. Unfortunately, temporary.
Hold on. I just need to state something because I had the best image run through my head of a parent walking by somebody's computer while you're saying that.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, man. Doors. Yeah, my doors are closed in my house, but yeah. But you're right. I often have that thought when I'm in class. Yeah, yeah. Where I'm like, man, I hope nobody walked past the door when I said that. But at the same, I'm a lot more PG-13 than I was once when I was a young brash instructor. All right. Unfortunately, temporary pleasures can lead to pain in the long run. The truth is, okay, now the student's transitioning into the actual subject. Well, we know the subject is infidelity, but they're transitioning into their what is going to be their thesis statement. Cheating is much more prevalent than people would like to admit. Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, and it is important to understand some of the reasons people go outside of their relationships. Now we know, okay, paper's going to be about causes. There are many causes for cheating, including now this thesis statement. There are some pros and cons to a thesis statement that's set up this way.
I can see a con already.
So yeah, okay.
The way he set this up, I'm gonna basically expect an explanation of each thing that he's written down here.
Right, and that's the pro and the con at the same time, because one, it does lay out a list of things, and me personally, I'm not really a huge fan of lists in essays, but the pro is if the student follows this pattern of development, plan of development, then their essay is already organized in their thesis statement. So it like Matthew was saying, it does, set up those expectations, but on the positive side, it can keep a person organized. I would just maybe try to streamline this a little bit. Like personally, I wouldn't and I remember just conferencing with this student, and they said, okay, I'll change it, and I got the final draft of the same thing. All right, but it worked. But for my tastes, and my personal taste doesn't really affect how I evaluate essays. But for my personal taste, this is kind of a mouthful. All right, but again, it has no bearing on how I assess.
Well, you're not gonna like my essays then. I'm a fan of lists.
Okay, never know. I think each essay, reaches me on different levels, because I do read essays as an evaluator, but some I read just this is interesting. I want to know more about this. All right, because at the end of the day, I'm a person just like you all, man. Just trying to figure stuff out. Can I list? Oh, sure. Yes, Shamika. Yeah. Okay. Definitely. Okay, many causes: emotional disconnect, viewing porn, revenge for past, infidelity, boredom, lack of love, and communication problems. Okay, pretty much laid everything out. Okay, so now let's see. We aren't going to go through this whole thing, of course. You can go. I'll just go through the first body paragraph, and then you can go through the rest at your leisure. The most common cause of infidelity is a feeling of emotional disconnect from a partner. Okay, thesis statement. First item: emotional disconnection. First body paragraph: emotional disconnection. Interesting. Okay, but again, here's our topic sentence. And now, or here's the point, if we're using the pie method. And then let's see if this student provided relevant supporting details. The person who committed the infidelity may complain of feeling undervalued, unwanted, or ignored, which can lead them to cheat. Yeah. As people build lives and become more comfortable with one another, there is a tendency for relationships to become stagnant, ultimately leading to emotional disconnection. Many couples establish routines and can end up living completely separate lives, although they may share the same bed. When an emotional disconnection occurs, one person in the relationship may seek that connection elsewhere. Emotional infidelity has proven, okay, there's this statement has proven, that means that you or the writer is going to bring in some kind of evidence, some data, or something that verifies this, has proven to be more common than physical infidelity. In her article, The Most Common Way to Cheat Is Not What You Think, Kristen Kalaki cites research from the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. Okay. Credible organization. All right. And this is just a rule for you all. If you're unsure or you don't know much about an organization, Google, check out their Wikipedia page. And I know we had a brief discussion about Wiki last week, but Wiki, as far as like organizations, it'll give you the rundown on them. All right. Points out that, quote, about 45% of men and 35% of women have admitted to having an emotional affair. That's a lot more than the 20% of people who admit to having a physical affair. All right. And then here's my citation. And then here's the follow-up. Okay. Again, the student didn't begin or end with the quote, and then they followed it up. When there is a yearning for emotional support, it opens the door for a person to fulfill that need. The person in need of emotional support may not intentionally go looking for it outside of the relationship, but if an opportunity for a connection presents itself, they are likely to seize it. Okay. Point. Information. Explanation. Okay, let's use this one. Run out of
I have a question about quotes.
Yes.
So if we're going to be using the same book twice, two different
Yes.
quotes, how do we do that?
Ask that again.
If we're using two quotes in different paragraphs from the same book, do we have to restate the title of the book again?
No, you would just have the author's last name in your citation.
Okay, thanks.
That's fine. But when you're using more than one source, always include the author in your citation. All right. And then there's an additional example here as well that you can go through on your own. All right. And when you do your works cited page, my good people, make sure, if you need guidance, make sure you view, this material, or, use the internet, MLA citation. And then I'm going to show you, I don't know why I just went to our webpage the long way. It's actually one of my former students, Atticus. Cool guy. All right, let's go to the library. Okay, how to cite sources. Okay, you can check that out. Ask a librarian is great for like real time if you just have to ask a question. But I just wanted to show you just a few resources. But typically when you cite material, author's last name, page number. If there are no page numbers, author's last name will suffice. All right, author's last name will suffice if there are no page numbers. If there are no page numbers, do not add them.
And if it's something like an internet article that doesn't have an author for some reason?
Shortened version of the title. So, for example, if we're saying we have a long article like infidelity in the 21st century, as it applies to young couples, we don't want to put that long title. So why isn't my capital working? And then your punctuation go outside. So if there's no author, shortened version of the title. Right.
Got it.
So listen here, people. Good people of English 1510. Got a week to prepare your draft. All right. If you have questions about it, just shoot me an email or upload your paper to NetTutor. You're turning them in Tuesday of next week. Oh, Tuesday of next week, we will not have a Zoom session. One, because you guys are submitting your work, and two, I typically don't hold classes, on election days. But I'll still.
Why is there even class on election day?
I don't know. I guess because our school isn't a polling site, so maybe the school can't justify shutting down. But a lot of teachers don't hold class sessions. All right, so I typically don't. All right, so, but your paper's still going to be due, so make sure you get that uploaded. All right, and in the meantime, I'm available by email. All right, and check this module out too, MLA documentation resources. Get some good guidance as well. All right, well, that's all the content I have today, kind souls. All right, I will get this class converted and uploaded sometime today. And if you had some additional questions, stick around. But if not, that's all I got, kind souls. All right, have a great day.